Yeah.
It is tricky because every broker pays differently. So some
Yeah.
the agreement between brokers, and you almost have to ask, what does your listing agreement look like before?
Yeah. So even at the contract level, right now, the buyer and the seller, they can actually see your commission on paragraph 12, which is a paragraph that everybody look at it more than page 10.
Yeah.
So it's not like they bring it up there for you to, for people to have questions. And you
Yeah.
need to be ready. Like even the other agent, you need to be ready to help them too, because 90% of the time they don't know what they're doing either.
I like the transparency. I think that it was a
Yeah.
long time coming. I wish that we had more on the listing side too, because I'm seeing where some buyer's agents are reducing their commission and then they see that the listing agent got 4% and they're like, oh, that didn't feel good. It's definitely something to talk about.
Yeah, does everybody know what we're talking about a new chance to the contract? If not, we still early, and I can actually share my screen, and I really want to show you exactly what Amanda and I talk about, because there's actually a chance in the official contract regarding your commission. So let me pull up the contract actually. Yeah, Newbury. Let me see if I can pull up the contract that I have, and then we can look at the paragraph, and then we can discuss that. What does it mean? What is it different from the other, from what we usually do? Amanda, do I have the...
You are a co-host, my friend.
Okay. Okay, let me quickly share the screen real quick, and then we can discuss this paragraph 12, because I think it's important. We can jump into the mastermind. So share my desktop. Amanda, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is new. Paragraph 12B. It say the following amount to be applied to the brokerage fee that the buyer has agreed to pay. What does that mean? It's so confusing.
Zoom in because I'm blind.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can zoom in. There you go. Yeah, so this is exactly what it says in the contract. Paragraph 12. Normally it's just the seller credit to the buyer. But now that's the thing, it say the following amount to be applied to broker's fee that the buyer has agreed to pay. 3% of the sale price. Anybody want to take a crack and explain to me what this means?
I can explain it.
Yeah, so Jessica, go ahead.
So basically, when the rules changed, where we have to have a buyer rep signed, and you know how they created all these new forms that you had to include because of the commission. So
Mhm.
this does away with all the other forms. So basically, you should have your buyer rep sign with the buyer for how much they're going to pay on the commission, and then whatever that amount is, that's what you enter in paragraph 12A1B, because the buyer rep has the commission that they're paying. So then this is just like a kind of like a pass through to the seller. So in writing, the buyer is paying you, but on this contract, the seller is paying what the buyer agreed to pay you on the buyer rep.
There you go. There you go.
You go, girl. What I
There you
love about this setup too, we almost should have had this. EXP doesn't do broker to broker anymore. And I think that it's actually brilliant because the liability was I'm going, let's say Hui is the listing agent, listing broker, and I'm the buyer's agent broker. Hui would have to receive my commission and then send it to my broker, and he's liable for collecting it and babysitting it, make sure it's right, sending it to me. And then if I don't get paid what I should get paid, we're all in trouble. And so what this is saying is the seller is going to directly pay the buyer's agent. So the
got
listing
it.
agent doesn't have to be included. There's no agreement between brokers. I got to be in charge of negotiating my commission regardless of what their listing agreement said. And so it's very empowering. Just like Jessica said, if you have your buyers, you should. If you have your buyers rep in order, and let's say it says 3%, and the seller's like, I'm only going to pay you 2%. And I know we'll go into objections.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of agents say, okay, I'll put 2% on 12B, but then on 12C, I'm going to add an amount equal to 1%. So $1,500 or $2,500. And because you've got that buyer's rep, that counts as a closing expense. They're going to owe you that commission, and the seller still, it's the same net for them. They're paying you your commission, but it's going to feel a little bit better where they're paying that buyer's closing cost, but it's really going back to you.
Yeah. So keep it
Sorry,
simple.
sorry, I just want to clarify. I'm a little bit confused here. Sorry, wait, but if you mark as 3% here, and then there's another form for compensation from the broker that you can fill, and then at the bottom of this form right here, there's a section like 3% growth. Yeah, we usually fill out. So I'm super confused of the purpose of this versus the one we just talked up there under section 12.
That's a great question. So if you read this, see how he marked it through. First of all, it's for informational purposes only. You could put $45,000. That doesn't guarantee that you're getting paid that. So you really want something documented somewhere differently. But this is saying that the other broker has agreed to pay the other broker. And what we're saying is EXP doesn't do broker to broker. They have the seller pay the buyer's agent directly. And so EXP is not, if you're the listing agent, EXP is not agreeing to pay Keller Williams directly. They're saying the seller will pay Keller Williams directly. And so every broker will have a different term. I naturally gravitate towards paragraph 12 because it's easy and it's clean and I don't need another form. But if they come back and they say, hey, we actually do broker to broker, I need the agreement between brokers signed, you'll remove paragraph 12 and you'll use page 10 in an agreement between brokers.
Yep. Yeah. So either way, as a buyer agent, you will get paid, but it's the same, but it's actually different. This way, the listing agent will pay the buyer agent, but in paragraph 12, the seller will pay the buyer agent directly. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, and I agree with the direction that EXP is going. This is much more clean when you don't have to get in the middle of the commission between the seller and the buyer agent.
So as a listing agent with EXP, will never be using the broker to broker agreement form, but as a buyer's agent with EXP, when we deal with a listing agent from a different brokerage, we would be using the broker agreement if that's what they have in place, right?
Spot on. Yep.
Okay.
Let me see. Yep. But yeah, any other question on this particular form? And again, if you have question on this, the best way to go and have this clear up is actually go to exp.work and talk to one of our broker in the Texas broker room. They are well familiar with this type of thing, and then they can help you walk through and explain to you. So that way you can go back and explain to your buyer and seller. So keep in mind, exp.work. If you haven't go to the broker room, we have office support from 7 a.m. all the way to I think it's 24/7 now. Don't call people up at midnight and ask this question, but yeah, feel free to leverage our broker in order to help you with this question.
I love it. Okay, so Hui, you were saying that you've come up with a lot of objections, and I've seen a lot lately where people are saying, I'm selling my house. I've seen a lot of short sales lately, a lot of foreclosures, a lot of people are tight on money, and it seems like the first thing to go is the people's commissions. And so they're saying, can you do it for cheaper? Can you list my house for cheaper? Do I really have to pay you 3% or 2% or whatever your number is? The seller's not going to do that. So I think it'd be really fun we've got Jessica's a rock star, Elva's a rock star, Shannon's on here. She sold quite a few, to go through a few of those objections and see what could we say to ensure we show our value, but also get paid what we feel like we're worth.
Yeah, really, I really want to take the scenario from me and Amanda. We really want to take the scenario from you guys. I'm sure that's been a case that Tram, Ashley, you've been asked for your commission back. So what is the scenario and how you handle it, and then how we would handle that differently? Actually, Amanda, because a lot of my clients, these are VIP client, good referral source. So I rarely run into this type of issue. And I have different package. So let's say if you go with my 2%, I'm gonna provide this and this. And if you go with my 3% listing package, I provide this and this. There's a special pricing for investor. And if you are retail, so I have different package for everything to make sure that that's gonna be a fit for everybody.
That's empowering. That way they feel like they're still using you regardless, but they feel like they have a choice in what
Yeah, yeah. So for example, investor is we I think that we all can agree that, let's say, open house, it doesn't really push the house to sell. So from an investor point perspective, if we don't do open house, and then I usually list for investor for around 2%. And that has worked for the last 5, 6 years.
Yeah, and the trick is they're giving you multiple listings probably, not just one-offs.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So what do you guys do? Let's say you're going to a listing appointment and it's a traditional, and you call them and you meet with them and your listing appointment's going great and you guys agree on the price, and then he says, okay, I want you to list it for 1%. You want to have a good script for that? Or I know with Bob from ABC Real Estate, and he said he would do it for $1,000 flat fee. What would you do if you came in, you were excited about the listing, you want to market it?
I would say no. But I would also say if you're doing it at a discount, then you're getting discounted services. And I don't like to give my clients discounted services. So this is what I charge and this is what I offer.
I think that's spot on. And I think that you almost want to, anytime someone says anything, I used to get like almost offended, or I would take it personally. Oh, they don't think I'm worth it, or they don't like me, or it's business, right? And so really go down to, why is 1% important to them, and ask them that. And typically they think, if I pay Hui 1%, I'm going to save 2%, or I'm going to be making more money. And so go talk about that objection and say, I totally understand the importance of netting the most money for your sale. My goal is for you to make the most amount of money possible. And then, just like you said, talk about what you're going to be doing. The truth is, when you hire me, you're not getting a discount service. You're going to get full exposure. You're going to get listing syndication. You're going to get aggressive marketing, expert negotiations. My personality type of me doing things full time and earning that 3% or whatever your number is, I'm protecting your bottom line from day one. I'm not going to cut my commission. I'm not going to cut the energy and the power and the money that I need for marketing. That is in your best interest. And yes, you are doing a bigger investment in me because I might be more expensive than ABC Realtor, but I intend to deliver on that return on investment.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go back about UVP in a little bit, but I think a lot of the commission negotiation, it comes when the client can see our unique value proposition, and it's actually our job to bring it up in the beginning and set the right expectation.
Yeah.
But with that
So
said, there's gonna be still a ton of client that will ask for your commission back.
right.
Go ahead.
I just want to share one thing. Sorry, I'm at the doctor
Yeah,
office.
I was gonna ask you, Elva, please share with us the real scenario that you
Yeah,
do, and
let
then
me
we can see how we can help you do that.
Awesome. So I have a scenarios that a list is a listing I walk into and they ask me to do a 2% commission for seller agent and 1% for buyer agent because they are short in money and all that personal reasons, and it also was a friend. So my response to them is definitely it's not gonna happen for especially the buyer agent side. If you only pay 1%, more likely you wouldn't get a good qualifying buyer or even an offer that actually good to the table, most likely. And then definitely a no. If you want to get offers and showing, definitely has to offer 3%. For the listing agent side, 2%, which is 3%. I have a thought on that one. And I let them know, I asked them what's their number that they want to get in terms of sales price for the house, and I ran comp for it. Whatever they add was reasonable. So I told them, hey, if I was able to sell the house, let's say a range from 380 to 400K, then absolutely get you that number. Absolutely, I think it will be a 3%, but we could do the tier structure like that. But if we were not able to get a buyer for you for 380 and above, then I would happy to go down to 2%, but you have to cover all my listing costs, such as the picture costs and advertisement costs, because I'm heavily, aggressively throwing it out there, marketing to all the agents and potential buyer. There is always cost to the business. But since you want to see performance, we'll talk about performance. If you get the numbers what you wanted, then definitely 3%. That was our agreement, and it ending up, meet that 380 and above number. So I did get a 3% on that one.
That's
It just I think it just had to make them feel good that hey, yeah, they're out of agent out there doing flat fee, etc. But hey, what do I get out of that? But here it's like a guarantee. If I don't get what the number I want, then yeah, 2%.
The vibe that I get from that situation too is, you have a vested interest in really selling my home and caring about my net. And you're a true business partner, to where if something hits the fan, right? If the marketing, doesn't work, or the price doesn't work, or I don't get the offers, or the market shifts, or whatever, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one sacrificing and reducing my price. You're also doing that as well. And you're putting your money where your mouth is. All three of those are huge. So you guys take that from her playbook. Agree on a price and say, if I do what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to get paid this. And if you have to compromise on your net, I will do the same.
No, I love that. Yeah. So just to recap for the people that just joined, so this is a situation. Listing appointment, the seller asks you to list for 2% and pay the buyer agent 1%. And Elva just handled that beautifully. One thing I would gonna say, come back to the structure that EXP have with the seller paying the buyer agent directly. I usually use that to handle this type of objection as well. It's gonna be up to you, Mr. Seller, right, to determine how much you're gonna pay for the seller, for the buyer agent. But keep in mind that if you're gonna pay 1%, I can almost guarantee you that nobody's gonna put an offer on your house. Would you want that? So I actually leave it up to them in order to decide how much they want to pay. And normally, from my experience so far, nobody would offer 1% after they see the offer on the table because they do want to get the house sold.
Yeah. There's a few ways to play that. One's kind of a little janky, but what I do is you want to acknowledge, thank you for being upfront for what
Oh,
you
it's fun. Yeah.
Thank you for telling me. I understand that. And then this is why I'm concerned. And then just share it like you guys are allies and you're working through it. Say, I'm seeing two different things. I'm seeing either realtors who, and they shouldn't do this, but they're seeing that you're only paying 1% and they're not showing the property because they don't want to earn 1%. Or more commonly, and is truthful, and this is ethical, is these people have already signed buyers with that NAR lawsuit. They had to sign a buyer's rep before they even walked through that door. And that realtor had them sign one for 3% or 2% or whatever up front. And so these people have to pay that realtor 3%. And every person in this buy box that I'm seeing, they're FHA, they're conventional, they need money towards closing costs, they have to pay for moving. They don't have money to pay their loan for your house at this price and pay their realtor. And so you're really handicapping them. Either way, whether you're paying their closing costs or you're paying their realtor, it's going to be the same net. But this way, you're getting more people through the door.
No, I love that. I love that.
Mm.
And May, if you can speak, I know in your lab work, you run into multiple situations where people is asking for your commission back. So can you share with us one of the scenario that you run into and how you handle that?
I think it's quite common in the Asia's culture in general to ask for rebates, right? So first thing first, I always say I understand the concern. I know that there's agents that are discount agents, right? And I gonna say that I understand why they ask that option. And then I'll go into my little script of how much work and why do I deserve to get paid at the full commission. I usually go down to, hey, so number one, I understand that sometimes, for example, I have some of the buyers who come in and just see one or two houses and they get under contract and they purchase, or if they go to new construction one time and they find the right one that they're always looking for. So in that situation, I would not be greedy, I would say, because I understand that sometimes a little of support when it comes to the closing costs may be beneficial to the buyers. And the thing about us and our culture is if you too strict when it comes to say, no, I gotta get my 3%, then the buyer is gonna feel like, oh, she's not listening to me while my friend is getting 1% rebate, 1.5% rebate, and why do this agent is so firm about it, right? So of course I'm gonna say, but if it's gonna be a quick transaction, like we go to a new construction this weekend, you find the one, I wouldn't mind just to help you out a little bit, just because I do not have to pay that much for gas. I don't have to spend that much of time with you. So in this way, I do encourage that buyers to do more research. So they don't waste my time going see 20, 30, 40 houses, right? So they know that if we're gonna do it quick, they're gonna get something from the help from the closing. But then I'm gonna say, but imagine you as a first-time home buyer, you as an investor. So I go into different scenario depending on what the buyer is looking for. So let's say first-time home buyer, you have not ever buy a house before. This is a big purchase and I want to make it right. And I want you to have the best experience when it comes to buying your dream home here. And it's going to be a lot of questions. I can do so much when it comes to helping you to get the right price, because I just helped another first-time home buyer discount buy a house that is 20,000 discount from the sales price. If we just look at 1% of my commission right now, maybe it's 3,000. It's nothing compared to the amount of discount that I'm able to help you when it comes to negotiate with the sellers. And I'll be there. You don't have to pay me anything to protect you throughout the entire process. And then for investor, I'm gonna say that it's so important to crunch the number to get the right property. You just cannot go, and I can always say, oh, I heard about the story that somebody just get the discounted commission and all they do is to submit that offer and didn't care about the client, and it's a bad experience. You really pay for what you get, and it's a service that I leverage on more on like the service that I provided deserve the 3% that you're supposed to pay. But I can be flexible if there's some exceptional scenario occur. In that way, I can keep them into the communication and keep a close communication with them because it's just very competitive when it comes to the business market here.
Yeah.
Very.
I love it. I love it, May. And one thing that's similarity I pick up between Amanda and May is that they always agree. You acknowledge the client concern, and then you agree to it first, and then you go into with your script. I think a lot of mistake that new agent make, they immediately go into the offensive and they start to attack the client. If you do that, you're gonna lose the relationship right away. So acknowledge, agree, and then go back into the negotiation. I agree with you. I'm more than happy to give you back your 1%, mate. But if I do that, are you willing to do X, Y, and Z? And then you start to push the work back to them. And a lot of time they're willing to do it. That's like perfect. I get paid a little less, but I don't have to do anything, right? And sometimes for me, those are the best closing ever. That the client find a deal, do all this work. I don't even have to show up at the design appointment. And then at the end of closing day, I get a check. I do those deals all day long. And it's all about on how you structure the deal. I agree with you, but are you willing to do X, Y, and Z in order to get those?
May I love how you were really defined on what that looked like too. We're going to go out for one weekend and that is the criteria because I had a guy call me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to look at new construction. I already know what I want. I'm not going to be asking you anything. Will you split your commission with me?" And it was a friend of a friend. I was like, "Sure, put my name down. This will be fun." He called me every day. He called me all the time. And what I learned is he didn't value my time up front and he didn't value my time during the entire transaction. And so you do have to be very clear on what those standards are if you're going to do that. And so now what I'll do is a fun game, almost like Elva does the put your money where your mouth is, say, "Hey," and I love how you said, "I'm going to get you a reduction or a credit bigger than that 1%. 1% is nothing compared to what I can do for you." If in this market, there's what, 67% sellers. It's like crazy the leverage that we have for buyers. And so say, "Hey, I love to play a fun game. Yes, I'm game for giving you a point, and that would equal 3,000. But let me play a game to see if I can get that or more towards closing costs, or if I can get your refrigerator, washer, dryer from the seller, or let's just see what we can get out of the new construction lender. And then if it's less than that, then I'll pay the difference." And typically they're fine with that because they like you, they trust you, it's a better net for them, and 9 times out of 10 you can get them more from someone else.
I love that. Is there anybody else have an experience, have a scenario that they're running into right now that they can bring it up to the mastermind table so that way me and Amanda and Mike can help you? I know.
I actually have a question. Thank y'all for the Zoom call. This is perfect timing. I have a listing in the Woodlands that has been sitting for almost 7 months. It expires next week, but they already agreed to extend it. It's listed for 1.75, and I agreed to 2% on my side if they used me to purchase the house, and I would get 3%. And that already happened. We already have a house for them. They've already moved. So now the house is vacant. But originally they said they would only pay the buyer's agent 2%. And here's where the problem comes in. I've had 9 showings with different realtors, and then I've had 3 other realtors call, ask what the buyer's agent commission is. I tell them 2%. They say thank you and they hang up and they don't schedule a showing. So my question is, I've presented all of this feedback to the sellers. What can I do now?
Okay. Amanda, go ahead. I do have a comment on this, but I see you. Go ahead.
What I do with my listings, and everybody does things differently, is I'll put on mine, I can earn up to 6% for selling your house. And then I don't put that I'm paying the other realtor anything. I don't have to. It's all negotiable. And that gives me flexibility. If I do end up double signing it, 9 times out of 10, I don't. I sign it to another realtor. But I don't have that conversation with the realtor. So especially when I work with investors that are paying 2%, nobody wants to show my crappy houses if they're not paying. They're old, they're vacant. Nobody wants to show that. And so what I'll do is, let's say someone calls you and they say, "Hey, Shannon, I see this house. My client's kind of interested. What are you paying?" Just say, "I'm a realtor. I love working with buyer's agents. I really value your time. Put whatever you need to in the offer, and I'll see what I can do to get it approved."
I love that.
Yep.
That's
And
great.
I don't even talk about kids. They're like, but I need to know what percentage. Say you put whatever you want. It could be 1%, 5%, 10%. It really depends on the net. So make me a great offer and I'm going to work really hard to get it approved. And then when you go to the seller, say, hey, I know you only wanted to pay 2%, but they're paying list price. We've been on the market for 7 months. I know it's empty. It's a liability at this point. It's not going to be a great asset for you. What do you want to do? And at that point, even if the seller is playing hardball and they say, I'm only going to pay 2%, kick rocks, the buyers have already emotionally connected to that house. They've already written the offer. They've already gone through the process. And that realtor is not going to say, we're not going to buy this house over a point. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
I love it, Amanda and Shannon. I would agree with you. How you answer that question is a single most important thing that you can do to your listing. Never give a number. Never give 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. Never give a number. Hey, that is a great question. Why don't you submit me a great offer, put down your commission amount, and then I'm going to try my best to present your offer in the best light possible to the seller. How does that sound, Shannon?
That's
Your
perfect.
job is to get an offer in front of the seller.
Yes.
Number it's gonna be an aftermath, right? Now we have something to work with. If you throw out number, you're gonna lose people right away. And I think for everybody on the call here, that is a single question that you get like all the time after the law change. And I keep seeing people throwing number, and that is just a completely wrong way to handle the situation. Never throw a number. Maybe the buyer agent is new and they put in 2% for their commission. Yay, you save yourself you save the seller 1%. So never throw out a number. Acknowledge, encourage them to put in an offer, and you're going to be on your side. You're going to present the best light possible to that offer to the seller.
And that's a little tease of what negotiations will be like for the future, right? So when they call, that conversation is the beginning of y'all's negotiations. And so if it goes well, girl, I've had this thing on the market for 7 months. You put whatever you want. I'm going to work my butt off to get this approved. Like we need to sell this house. And I'm sure you're tired of showing houses around the Woodlands too. It's too hot for that. Let's make this deal happen. They're going to be energized when they're showing their house because they're like, Shannon's wonderful to work with. She seems like she's really going to work hard to get it approved. I want this deal to go through. I'm going on vacation next month. Let's do it.
Yeah, so what you can do, Shannon, go ahead immediately after this mastermind, go ahead and call all those agents back and say, hey, Mr. Agent, Mr. Buy Agent, the seller might have a chance of hurt, so put in your best offer and I'm gonna present the best possible offer. The seller need to sell it today. So you encourage offer. Now you have something to work with.
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yay, I'm so glad. Yeah, that is a great question, Shannon. Thank you for bringing it up. Anybody else that running into a situation that you want to pick my brand, Amanda brand, and May brand?
I have a scenario that I'm wondering, maybe I should be handling it differently. I have a listing where they bought with me like 2 years ago and they decided to just sell, like it's just owning the house. It's just too much for them. But there's not enough equity. So when I ran the numbers, they can't, if they pay 3% to each agent, they would have to bring money to the table to close on it. So I agreed because they were going to buy two. It was a whole thing, but I agreed to two. If I sell it for this amount, then I get 2%. The buyer agent gets 2%. And as I reduce it, I reduce the commission too, to like down to 1%, but mainly because they have to bring money to closing to be able to close on it. So people are asking me up front, like what the commission rate is. And I tell them there's not much equity. I'm getting 2%. They can only pay 2%. And I haven't gotten any offers. So I'm just wondering, how would you guys handle that? Because we've done like 3 transactions. They're past clients. I've just told them I'm helping you guys, but I'm really going to count on you to send me referrals because I'm not going to make money on this deal, but I want to sell it. So I don't know how I should be handling it.
This is actually a tough one, Jessica. I'm running into a situation with negative equity as well, and it's really bothering me. So, Amanda, maybe you can help us out.
There's a lot of that happening right now. Girl, there's so many short sales and foreclosures just wild. And so if you can get it off the books and not have to pay a lot, then go for it. I would do exactly what you're doing. I would reduce and be flexible and be upfront of, I'm going to need a lot of referrals for this. I'm going to need you to love me and appreciate me because I'm doing you a solid. And it's an investment in our relationship because I care about your situation. And then for the buyers, I would do the same thing that Shannon's going to do is just say, hey, we're working on with really tight numbers. Send me an offer and I'm going to get a net sheet and we're going to see what we can get away with. And then just push for offers. Even if they ask for 3%, just push for it. Get the net sheet, look and see what you can actually do. and then counter them and say, listen, we actually just bought this house 2 years ago. You can see on MLS, we paid this for it. We're going to have to come to the table with $5,000 to be able to do this. And I want to leave a little cushion for during option period because it was built 10 years ago. And so we're going to have to pay you 1.5% or 2% just to get the deal closed. And I know that's not ideal. I'm also taking a reduction, but we're trying to avoid a short sale and a negative equity situation that's happening more commonly than we think. Just be upfront and candid about it, but I would push to get the offer first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that. Yeah. And Jessica, like Amanda says, sometimes you have to invest in the relationship, and sometimes, that investment is going to pay you back tenfold. I run into an exact situation, negative equity. I feel bad charging people 3%.
Yeah.
I have to bring like freaking 20 grand to the closing table. I cannot do that as a human. So I will work with him, do whatever it takes, make sure to minimize his damage. And to be honest, I just try to help the guy out at this point. He's really in the red. So
Yeah,
I'm not
same.
sure if May have any idea that you can help on the situation. This is actually a very common situation right now. People they overpay during COVID, and right
Mhm.
now, number one, they don't cash flow and they are bleeding every month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I have like a few similar situations like that as well, Jessica. And then I always try to see what is like a real scenario. So if they have the net enough that cover for at least like somewhat commission, then we try to help them to sell it. But sometimes if it's too tough, we can say, is there an option for them to lease it out? If the margin is too small, sometimes lease it out and have somebody to pay for the mortgage during the meantime. Maybe some people can do 6 month lease. Some people do a short-term lease so they can wait and see if the market getting better. But if they just firm on just getting rid of the house and let's move on, then we just have to set a realistic scenario with them. Like every month they are losing, for example, 2-3 thousand for the mortgage. Then are they willing to go aggressive to avoid having having the house sitting on the market for 3-4 months? Imagine if it's just sitting on the market for 3 months. Each month they lose 2,000, then it's already 6,000 upfront. So would you want to be aggressive? Because I think right now some of the listing that list slightly below the market price can move faster. But again, it's always going back to our end, presenting sellers to be as much flexible as we can to help them out. And especially, at least this is a return client that we can always count on them on future deals and referrals.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like quite an unfortunate situation right now that a lot of people purchase high in 2021, 2022, and now they just need to sell it. And it's hard because the market is not having enough time to build up the equity yet. And I even hear that over and over again, some of the out of town clients from Seattle or different states, they just don't get it why Houston houses are not accumulate that fast when it comes to the equity. Because if somebody purchased a house in Seattle within 1 or 2 years, they already have a lot of equity, like 50, 60,000 equity easily. So sometimes we have to go back to the education and say, this is how the market is in Houston. We have a lot of new constructions and explain to them, set the right expectation. I don't want to sugarcoat anything when it comes to the reality of how the market is.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you bring the fact that you help your client explore alternative right before you sell. If you can hold a piece of real estate, eventually, if it's a bad deal, eventually time is gonna heal all of your mistakes. So maybe if you can give it to your mom and your mom is over 65, she's gonna homestead it. She pay property taxes $200 instead of 10,000, and all of a sudden you have cash flow, and all of a sudden you have option to keep the house. So I always explore different options for the seller to keep the house, and then if there's no other option and then we have to sell it for a loss, at least they know that I'm not trying to just get my commission. I explore all the other options, and then just sometimes may say don't sugarcoat it, cut your loss, lick your wound, and then move on to the next deal.
Yep.
Yep. Love it. Love it.
Just had that with the flipper. He thought he was going to make 40,000 and he ended up being upside down for 4,000. And he was so adamant about, I'm not going to sell for a loss. And then he sat on the market with a different realtor for 7 months. And that ended up costing him $12,000 in fees and taxes and all this stuff. And so we said, okay, if you don't have a loan on it right now, you can do owner financing. We can put it on the market for rent. You can maybe ask someone for a wrap. We give him all these different options, or you can just get it off the books. And he said, I'm not going to do a flip for a while. Let's just get it off the books. But then he wasn't mad at me with the situation. It was I've explored my options and I feel empowered to choose one.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point, Amanda. Whenever seller get mad, they don't get mad at you. They get mad at the situation. So you need to be able to detach that and then handle it without your emotion get involved. When emotion run high, intelligence run low.
Yeah.
Selling a house, buying a house, it's a very emotional process, especially in residential. You need to be the guy and the gal that stay cool, right? So that way you can intelligently handle the situation. If you get emotional, and then it's gonna be a train wreck.
Oh yeah, he was fired up. He's like $600 for a home warranty, and I didn't realize title was this much. And he was just going, and I was thinking while he was going off, I was like, okay, what? When he was done, I just said, flipping houses is really hard, isn't it? And he just stopped, and I said, not only did you invest all your money, but you invested a lot of time. You probably there checking on things and cleaning it up and picking out the countertops. Like you worked really hard on that, didn't you? And he was like, I did. I'm really frustrated about that. And then it de-escalated the situation, and we aligned again, and then we could move forward.
There you go. Agree, acknowledge, be flexible, and then go back to your script, go back to the objection. That's how you stop it. Never go head to head directly with your client. This is a sure way to kill relationship.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to add, I heard from someone else, and I used it twice over the weekend. I heard it on Friday and I used it twice over the weekend, but it worked. And the thing was, for sellers, really, there's two options. We can either list a home or we can sell the home. Which do you prefer? And I thought it's so trivial, but it's so true, especially in this market because listings are staying on the market for longer. And I had to use that on my sellers, and they're retired. My particular sellers are retired, and they fit that bucket where they don't really need to sell, but they want to. And so they've been in their house for 37 years, all of the things. They're emotionally attached and all of it. So we went through a whole thing there too and bring the price down. And ultimately this weekend I said, look, we can take it off and relist it after a few days after you've regathered your numbers, because that's what they wanted to do. And we can just list it, or we can sell it. And if we want to sell it, then we need to price it accordingly. And they were in a fallacy this entire time. Luckily, what also helped is my client, the day that I went to go see him on Saturday, said he had already watched the news, he had read the paper, he had done all this homework. And he said he said it before I did. And he said, I know the market has been really bad. I know you've told me this every week. I see it now. I've read the paper. I've done all these things. And I'm like, okay, because I have been saying it every time. And I have been showing the reports and doing all of the things. But it hits different when your seller is doing the same kind of investigation for themselves, because I think he realized in that moment that it wasn't just me. It was a market thing. It's not a me thing. Yeah. And so that was really helpful. And so as soon as I said, do you want to list it or sell it? His wife said, no, I want to sell it today. And I said, okay, then let's go. Let's show up with the right number. And so that changed the conversation. It was great.
I love it. That's the script I'm gonna take away today. You want to listen?
That's pretty good. Yeah, and
Go ahead.
I have something to chime in. Like whenever we have a seller that said, I want to pay less commission, the other agent only charged me 4%. Why yours is so expensive, this and that. So I guess like my client is more like Vietnamese, right? So the script that I say, it might not sound like it, but it's more like along of the line, like, hey, I completely understand your situation and you want to walk away with the most amount of money, but let me share something with you. Like if you're hiring a discount agent, it can actually cost you more in the end. And I want to say, hey, the agent that representing you, your negotiator, they can't even negotiate their own commission. How will they defend you in terms of price, terms, and
hey, you can take
represent
a seat
you
number 7, and you can sit next to her and be for 6.
in your best interest? So I just circle back to like discount agent, they can even negotiate their own commission. Then how can they represent you in the seller best interest?
I love that. Yeah. And especially Didi, I see that whenever you have a listing in this market that is actually pending on a contract for 1 day or 2 days, I see you guys go all out with the marketing, and then you use that case scenario to apply that in your listing appointment in order to ask for your 3%, 4% commission. I think that's the best marketing ever in this market right now. Yeah, it's actually to show your value. Hey, discount agent, 100 day on the market. When you hire DD, wait 1 day on the market pending. I was like, where do I sign? Where do I sign DD?
These days, like when you're running comps for your listing appointment, you can include expireds and terminated. Yes, those are not sold comps, but that is the market. And so you can show, oh, this one listed for 450. It sat on the market for 90 days and went off the market and hasn't come back on. This one terminated after 120 days. We don't want to be this person. And so going through that of this is your market and being candid, just like Shajin was saying about the market, I think that education is key. I had a couple of listings that they were very proud of their new fancy houses, and I called them and I said, we have to sell your house this summer. Let's talk about it. When are you available to talk? This summer, we're selling your house because I don't want you to go into Q4 not having this house sold because of the market and different things. Or you can sit on it and we can wait until the market goes back up in a year or two. And they all gathered their information. They looked at the comps, they looked at the expireds and terminated, reduced the price and got it sold.
No, I love that.
I was going to add a comment to what Shazine was saying and even Amanda now. Like one thing that I asked these people that are in have negative equity that I think I would ask most sellers if I went on listing appointments and they're set on a price because of the way the market is. And I got this from a Tom Ferry podcast. I just asked them like, okay, at what point, at what price are you no longer a seller? Because I want to selfishly, I want to make sure that if I'm investing money in marketing, that I am going to sell it. Because if in the end you decide, you know what, take it off the market or lease it, it's a waste of my time and a waste of my money. So I think it's the best way to really ask, like it puts it so direct for them to say, I'm okay with if you decide not to sell, but let's talk about that now. And at what price are you not selling anymore? Because that way you're not running into the issues that maybe Shazine ran into. Like she handled it well, but if you have the conversation up front, you already know. So I just wanted to share that.
That is the script I'm taking away from this meeting. That is my aha golden.
Wow.
Yes, girl.
You guys are brilliant. At what price you're no longer a seller?
Yeah, it's good.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Very good. Very good.
And it makes them start to think like, what is that number and how bad do I really want to sell? And if that number, their offer is not what they wanted, but it's bigger than the number that they gave you for the price that I'm not a seller, there's so much psychology to that number. Brilliant.
That's a great one, Jessica. No wonder you sell so many houses.
Tom Ferry podcast. I'm going to look that up.
All right. Cool. I think we're getting ready to wrap up here. Anybody have a last scenario that you want to discuss? Or Amanda, you have anything that you want to end the call with? Same thing with May.
I love this. I think it's so important for us to collaborate and share nuggets because we all have different backgrounds and we all do things differently. And it's so cool to get, my goal is every week for everyone to get one little nugget that they can go back and implement. Just like Shazine said, I got it on Friday. I used it twice this weekend and this is how it's helped me. Let's start doing this every Tuesday. I would challenge y'all to bring a friend or two, invite people to come to this because the more minds get together, the more people that are here, the more we'll get to learn. Do we have a topic for next week?
Not yet. So let's come up with one and then let everybody know.
Yeah, if you guys have something that's really important that you think we should go over, we're super open to that and we'll keep.
Yeah, actually, I really want to get the survey from everybody in the call and in the team. This mastermind is for you guys. So if you have a topic that you really want to hit on, send it to me, send it to Amanda, and then we'll bring it on. We will discuss it and we will help you with your situation just like today.
I know that a few days ago you talked about the AI. Did you record it?
We actually do. Yeah, so let me send you the recording of that.
Okay, great.
really
Thank
good.
you
And
so
then
much. And then I have a suggestion. It doesn't have to be next week, but soon. I've been reading about AI apps that will take over your phone. They'll take over your the calls that you want to take over, the text messages. They'll remind you of appointments that you have or things you may have forgotten because you were driving when you got the text, et cetera, et cetera. I would like to know more about that and which apps y'all suggest.
Yeah, I think it's called M1. I can give you the answer right now, but let me do some homework on it. But if you want, just Google M1 AI and then dig in, but you're gonna go into that direction. Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, speaking, since you mentioned AI, the best way for this commission negotiation tactic on ChatGPT, you can actually talk with them now. So you can open up ChatGPT on your phone and then in any language. I kid you not, I talk to ChatGPT in Vietnamese, in English. Just ask a scenario like, hey, I'm actually a buyer and you are the listing agent. Based on what you know about me, let's play it out at the closing table. You ask me for 1% commission back and then just play that out. And you're going to be amazed at how AI was able to counter all of your objections, which is absolutely brilliant.
I love that.
Yeah. So I've been talking with AI, which is sound really weird, but it just gives me a lot of idea and I can prepare for all the scenario.
One step further, which is super creepy, I use it for recruiting, which you could use it for listings, is you'll put in, I'm meeting Bob White at 123 Main Street next week. Tell me everything you know about him. And it pulls up all of his stuff. Based about what you know about him, what would he be interested in seeing at a listing presentation? Based upon his personality type, what objections do you think I'll run into? And it will tell you what's important to them, what they're probably into, what do they do based on their career or whatever. And I do that with recruiting too. Tell me everything about Dee Dee, and it'll have everything that they might be interested in what they're doing. Why would they be interested in EXP, or what would they want to hear? And then I can characterize that conversation based on ChatGPT is like 10 steps ahead. Use it for everything.
Yeah, in a way, ChatGPT, they can show us on the web now. I think Perplexity is a good one for that. It scans all your social media profile and then it gives you a result of that person on social media. So instead of you spending like half an hour scanning through all the social media, you can get a good summary of that particular person, right, in about 2 minutes. So it's going to speed up a lot of your research time.
What was that app?
It's either ChatGPT, you have to pay $20 for the deep search per month, or it's called Perplexity or Group. Yeah, and it's all in Kai training. I can post that recording soon. Yeah, but I really did a really good training on that.
It's brilliant. We'll reach out. We'll do a poll on Team Legacy for, oh, thank you, Perplexity AI on topics for next week. We're going to keep growing this mastermind roundtable. I think it's super important. So please bring a friend or two, even if they're outside of EXP. We want to collaborate with everyone, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, May, any ending word?
No, that will be it. I do want a kind of friendly reminder that we have a coaching corner tomorrow on Wednesday at 12. And then if it doesn't matter if you're new agent, experienced agents, or if you're struggle or not, but Kai did an amazing job coaching everybody on what is going on in the market. And we just hit different topics. And it's a similar mastermind that we do here in the Zoom form, but we're going to do it in person and it's a lot more interactive as well. So if you want, it's going to be at 12 tomorrow. It's coaching corner that Kai is setting up for all of us, just to lay another additional support to our team. And I think this is strong of how we sit together, mastermind together, because in this market, sometimes if you alone, I know that Dawn was, because she shared with me like, oh, did I do a good job when I list my client property because it's not moving? Sometimes it's not you, it's a market. And that's why we sit together and then share our experience and kind of mastermind to see what else we can do to serve and to help our clients better. So I hope to continue doing this together. I think a lot of topics, like a lot of agents right now asking about how we can help investor better. So maybe we can hit that next week as well, because interest rate is high, the market is tough. So how do we help investor to invest, for example? And following up is also another great topic, because every lead or client now take longer to convert to a sold transaction, right? So we can have a list of so many clients and it's so hard to keep track with them. So I think following up is another great topic. So if you guys have any topics, any ideas that you want us to mastermind and discuss on, then we'd love to learn about it as well.
Sounds good.